Tony came to us with a cool idea of how to deal with the situation they have out in Maine, just getting the workforce engaged, which I think is a problem for all of us, but especially so in Maine, as I think we'll talk about here. So just describe the situation, like the challenge you're facing, and what the impact was on your industry.
Yeah, so we all know that workforce is an issue. It's not just an isolated issue in Maine. We all deal with it. And so, essentially we have a whole workforce team. We have two people who are actually working around the clock to kind of address this challenge. And this is just one thing that we're trying to do to help address the situation. In Maine, tourism last year supported 151,000 jobs. That's 1 out of 5 jobs in Maine. That may not seem like a lot to a lot of you, but Maine is a small state, a little over 1 million people. So that obviously has an impact. We simply don't have enough people.
You're saying that's like 15% of the population is working in hospitality.
In tourism and hospitality, yeah.
And considering that most of the population isn't working, or at least only 60% of it, like that's a lot of jobs.
It's a lot of jobs, and we simply just don't have enough people in the state to work. And we all know that when we don't have enough people to work, customer service suffers. We leave revenue on the table because we can't service the amount of people who want to come. The demand for travel, we all know, is there. Maine is an incredibly popular destination, and so we want to be able to address this challenge the best that we can. We actually have really outlined methodically how to help change the perception of tourism at an early stage within the schools. We've been getting into schools, talking to students about all the career opportunities that tourism and hospitality has. This particular one that we're going to talk about today is really more adding an incentive to work within the industry. I think that when we all get into the tourism fields, we think that we're going to be able to travel and do some really cool things. And unfortunately, sometimes that's just not the case. We're all very lucky that we get to do things like come to these conferences and travel, but for a lot of the frontline workers, they don't. And so we wanted to add an added benefit.
Cool. Yeah, so just to go a little bit into some of the numbers, just for fun, I think we all know the issue, but it's nice to quantify it a little bit. This slide comes from the dashboard published by the U.S. Travel Association, provided by our friends at Tourism Economics. And this is showing change in leisure and hospitality employment since the same month in 2019. I pulled this in February, and you can see accommodations. It's improved. We were negative 14% last August. Now we're up to negative 9%. By the way, if you're a U.S. travel member, you can go in and log in and look at this dashboard anytime. And you can see the employment in other, the total private employment has gone up 4% since then. So employment has really lagged in accommodations across the economy, not in any particular one place. It's just been very hard to get people back in there. And I think we all know it's, some of it is demand, but it's also like, ADRs are high. It's just getting enough people to staff everything we're trying to do. Some more numbers. You can see at the same time that jobs, accommodation is still down 9% in terms of the number of jobs. The hourly earnings for leisure and hospitality have skyrocketed since 2019. The chart on the left, again, is indexed to 2019, and you can see regular wages have gone up 20%, or at least private ones, and we've got a full almost, another 40-45% growth over that level in leisure and hospitality. So it's just getting more expensive to hire these people, even at the same time that it's hard to do so. And then you can see the average weekly wage for accommodation has also jumped quite a bit, especially in production and non-supervisory employees. So the bosses have actually had less wage growth than the regular workers. It's really, really hard to get these people. This just all speaks to the scarcity of workers in the economy right now. Last one, looking at Maine specifically, all still from the U.S. Travel Dashboard. On the left here, we have travel spending by state and the growth thereof since 2019. Red means that you have lost travel spending. Blue means you've gained it. And you can see Maine up there is one of the very darkest blue buttons. I'm too far away from the screen I'm looking at to tell you exactly what the number is on there, but it's big compared to everybody else. So lots of growth in travel spending in Maine. And then you look on the right, and here again, blue means growth, red means declines. This is the number of leisure and hospitality jobs by state since 2019, and you can see Maine is actually on the lower end of growth. So more spending, less people being employed. Is that what it feels like to you working there, Tony?
Yes.
Okay, so why don't we've laid out the problem. I think we've all talked about it, but it's even more of an issue, I think, in Maine. Let's get into a little bit of the idea you came up with for how to deal with this.
So our current board chair has worked in a number of different places around the country, and a couple years ago he came to me and he said, back when I worked in Florida and Hawaii, and by the way, this concept I don't think is new. Yeah. It's something that I think other places have done before. But essentially he goes, we used to have industry deals for staff. And he's like, it'd be really cool if we could do something like that here in Maine. And we kind of thought about it and try to figure out how can we accomplish this for the entire state. I've worked in individual communities around the state before, and a lot of the chambers, the CVBs, or in Maine we only have one CVB.
Is that true?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Portland? Portland, yeah. Okay. A lot of the chambers actually do kind of like dual roles for like the smaller communities. But, they have community types of incentives where, if you work within the community, you can go on like whale watching for free or something like that. And you just have to show, pay stub or something proof of that you work there. So we thought, how do we bring this kind of to a statewide level where we can get all the businesses to give really deep, heavily discounts for employees within the industry. And we're talking like, either complimentary or, 50% off. We're not talking like buy one, get one, drink or something like that. These are supposed to be some really big incentives. And really what we want to do is really get a huge collection from buy-in from all the businesses from across the state and allow anyone who's worked within the industry for the past year. Obviously, each business can put their own types of, criteria of how they want to do their deal. But we want to give the tools to the businesses to offer this to their staff. It's a little bit complicated on some of the layers because it's not public. We don't want the public to access these deals because it is supposed to be special for the employees who are working in the tourism and hospitality field. And we realize that, a lot of the people are working seasonally and they may not have time to take advantage of some of these opportunities. So we want them to be able to do it for a full year. So if you're working hard throughout the summer, go access something during the winter or in the fall or whenever there's an opportunity to do so. And a side benefit of this is they become better ambassadors for the state of Maine as well because they have the opportunities to try and do more things in Maine. And we all know that, especially anybody who's talking to our visitors, you want them to have knowledge, you want them to be as welcoming as possible, and the more experience that they can talk about firsthand, the better feeling or the better hospitality and customer service that we can deliver to the visitor. It's kind of a win-win. And so, again, this is just one part of many layers for trying to address the workforce challenge. But working with Simpleview, was awesome because they were pretty much, let's absolutely try to figure this out. We already had a coupons and deals. Page on our site. So essentially, it was kind of like, how can we adapt that and kind of do something that's industry specific? And so this is kind of the end result. We're getting ready to launch this to all the businesses. We brought it up when we talked about it at our board meeting a couple months ago. The entire board was like, we should have done this a long time ago. So, after kind of like thinking about all these barriers. It's like, let's kind of dumb it down. And honestly, it's been a really smooth process so far, and we're really excited to get it launched and hopefully incentivize some people to work within the industry.
Yeah, from a technical perspective, it wasn't too tough when Tony came to us. We do his website. And really, we just used the coupons, like he said. We created a separate category for them and then put a filter on this and then put the page that shows them behind a password. It's actually not super foolproof, but that's why it's ultimately up to the business to verify that the person is really working in it with proof of employment or something like that. But we have a couple example deals in there already. You can see 25% off a guided trip. That's going to be a lot of money by the time you add that on.
Absolutely. I mean, anyone who's ever hired a professional guide, it can be $500,000 a day, depending on what the trip is.
Yeah, and then industry insider getaway at Nonatum Resort. We've actually only got a couple examples built in so far. We're really launching it. But our future steps, I think Tony, you want to sign up more businesses. What are your thoughts on how to get that done?
Yeah, we have a lot of means to communicate with the industry, and a lot of it's just going to be, making, awareness of the program, knocking on some doors. It's a great opportunity to show value and to things that we're already offering. We're just going to beat the streets and get this out as much as we can, and I'm pretty sure all the businesses that we've talked to so far, they're super excited about this, and they can't wait to offer it to their staff.
Yeah, this is cool. It makes me want to go work in Maine in tourism, honestly. So anyway, thank you everybody for, my clicker, there it goes. Thank you everybody for coming to the talk. Just a quick little thing about, I think what's cool about this is just using tools you have and, even things you have in the form of these actual in-kind benefits to do something creative and create value and benefits for the industry, which especially as a state, you've got so many responsibilities that a lot of the local organizations don't have. It's cool to be able to think about it at this level and really reach out and affect things there. So he's Tony, I'm Paul. And we still have 1 minute and 45 seconds left on our timer if anybody wants to give us questions. But appreciate your time otherwise.